This is the Reading Instruction Show. I am your host, as always, Dr. Andy Johnson. The topic of today's podcast is evaluating sources and the Read Act Minnesota. And specifically, the title is Emily Hanford is the Alexa app of reading instruction. Now, I was having an online conversation the other day with my graduate students. And one of them asked, Dr. Johnson, how do you evaluate sources? Great question. And in the silence that followed, the question echoed, evaluate sources, evaluate sources, evaluate sources. With so much blabber in the media and such, and everybody throwing around academic-sounding terms, like candy at a 4th of July parade, it's no wonder that there's a bit of confusion here. So evaluating sources of information. We need good information to help us determine what is and isn't real. And in order to make good educational decisions, we have to evaluate our sources of information. Our sources should be true. We cannot build truth based on half-truths and semi-truths. Two half-truths do not make a whole truth. You cannot build a house on a foundation of sand, and you cannot make good decisions about reading instruction based on inaccurate or incomplete information. Hence, we must be able to evaluate our sources to ensure we're getting good information. But beyond true and false understanding, let's start with something upon which we can all agree. We all want the best possible literacy instruction for the students in our schools. We all want students to achieve their full literacy potential. I think we can all agree on that. Thus, we must make good decisions related to the types of literacy instruction these students receive. But to make good decisions, we need information that's beyond true. We need information that is accurate. And not only accurate, we need information that's understood within the context in which it is found. For example, it's true that if you teach phonics, students are very likely to score higher on measures of phonics. This is absolutely true. If you teach phonics, students will score higher on phonics measures than those who have not been taught phonics. That is accurate. But without context, that information is inaccurately understood and can be extended or applied inaccurately. We need a bit of context to accurately understand information. If you teach phonics, students are very likely to score higher on measures of phonics. Yes, but this does not mean that all students need heavy doses of phonics. This does not mean that all students will be better readers if they get more phonics. This does not mean that more phonics is better than less phonics. This does not mean that phonics is the key variable in learning to read. This does not mean that anything other than phonics should be excluded. This does not mean that phonics instruction should be taught at all ages and all levels. This does not mean that phonics skills transfer to authentic reading situations. This does not mean that heavy doses of phonics are better than light doses of phonics. This does not mean one approach to teaching phonics is better than another. And this does not mean that a skills-based approach emphasizing phonics is more effective than other meaning-based approaches that emphasize meaning. It merely states that if you teach something, students are going to score higher on measures of the something that was taught. And when you teach one group something and another group nothing, the something group is going to score higher on measures of something than the nothing group. Absolutely. But it does not mean that the something group is going to score higher on measures of something else when compared to the nothing group. However, this is the type of decontextualized facts upon which the READ Act in Minnesota was based. This is the type of decontextualized information promoted by science of reading zealots, and when challenged by context or with information that leaves the decontextualized fact to be untrue, we're told to read Stanislaus Dehaene. Go read Dehaene. Have you read Dehaene? You must read Dehaene. Here's a video of Dehaene. This is what Dehaene said. Dehaene, Dehaene, Dehaene. And I've read Dehaene, for the record. Now, a fact may be true, but the truth of the fact is limited to the context in which it was found. Outside a meaningful context, the fact may mean something different. Also, facts without context can be misapplied and misunderstood. This is true of many of the facts used to support science of reading structured approaches to reading instruction, known as structured literacy. It's a house built on a series of decontextualized facts. Now, a theory in scientific terms is not an untested hypothesis. In science, a theory is a way to explain a set of facts and to understand phenomena. Theories are made up of facts that have been created by research. A variety of types of research creates facts. Research-created fact dots are then used for the dot-to-dot picture, which is a theory. You cannot pull one or two dots out of the theoretical dot-to-dot picture and claim to have the whole picture. You cannot connect dots to non-dots or half-dots and get a clear picture or an accurate picture of anything. And you cannot start with your own picture and select only those dots that align with your picture. You also cannot use anecdotal evidence and personal experience to create dots. These aren't real dots. They're faded little half dots. And while these faded half dots may be true for you in your situation, they're not generalizable to a larger population. Yet this is what the Minnesota State Legislature has done with the READ Act. They chose to listen to non-experts with just a few dots in their pocket who consider themselves to be dot experts. They have dots, but they do not have the dot-to-dot picture of reality to understand their dots. They may know something about their dots, but they know nothing of the picture. Now, Emily Hanford is a journalist. She may be a wonderful person. She often reports facts, but they are facts that are not understood in the context of the whole. They're facts without context or understanding. They're dots outside a meaningful dot-to-dot picture. Thus, the reality she has described is a dot-to-dot picture that she has created out of her own imagination. She has connected a bunch of fact dots, half dots, and non-dots to create the distorted dot-to-dot picture that she wanted to create. Now, there is an importance of having a certain amount of expertise. Having expertise in literacy is important for understanding reading instruction. You have to have the whole picture. An expert knows what questions to ask, what data to collect, what to use to measure the data, how to collect the data, and how to interpret the data. With this expertise, you're able to connect the data dots to create a robust theoretical picture. Without this expertise, you're like Emily Hanford, connecting a few dots to create a weak theoretical picture. Now, I would invite Ms. Hanford to be a journalist. That's what she is. That's where her expertise lies. She's perfectly qualified to report on educational matters. However, my understanding of journalism is that you should be describing the picture. You should not be creating your own picture. Emily Hanford and American public media have created a picture that benefits them. Now, my Alexa app says that Emily Hanford's net worth is $14 million. Now, I know Alexa is not a reliable source. There's no way to vet this information, you see. But even if she's worth only $1 million, that's still much more than most teachers, teacher educators, scholars, and researchers are worth. But again, it's just an Alexa app, not a credible source of information. Emily Hanford is the Alexa app of reading instruction. Emily Hanford is able to say whatever she wants. Now, in academia, where real research is published, where real facts are established and put into a theoretical context, we have a process called blind peer review. Here, a jury of experts in the field review research in theoretical articles without knowing who the author of the article is, hence blind peer review. But the work of Ms. Hanford has never been about accuracy and understanding. It's been about making good radio and hefty speaking fees. And in the end, Emily is going to do what Emily does to the detriment of a whole bunch of kids who have to feel the impact of what Emily is doing. You can't ask a skunk not to stink. Emily is going to do what Emily does. This has been the Reading Instruction Show. I am your host, Dr. Andy Johnson.